Hello everyone. Can people see me? Okay, hi guys. Let's wait for another minute or so to let everyone join in the session. So, people who are already here, how are you? And how are you liking these sessions? Also, I hope today there won't be an issue. It's not very good right now, the quality, but I hope there should not be an issue for streaming stuff. Mm, is it fine? Are you guys able to see me and hear me properly? Or is it lagging a bit? Or is everything okay? Okay, anyways, let's see if people would like to join in between or whatever. Let's start with today's session. So basically today's session, I'll just brief you about what I'll be telling today. So first of all, it will be a quick recap of CSS through cheat sheets. I have a cheat sheet right now that is available online. You can also uh, use that cheat sheet. It's interactive, so you can test out various CSS properties and how they function. After that, I'll introduce JavaScript to you all. JavaScript, basically the programming language of the browser, you can say. And then I'll talk about what is a scripting language and how it is different from a programming language. And then I'll be talking about what is Acma Script, that is ES 5 or 6. Basically, it's the versions of Acma Script, JavaScript, jQuery, TypeScript, Babel, etc. After that, we'll write our first JavaScript code. Then I'll introduce you to the ways of writing JavaScript code and also nodeJS and NPM. NPM is basically Node Package Manager, and nodeJS, it's a runtime for running JavaScript code directly on your PC. And also I'll be giving a little brief demo of DOM manipulation. DOM is basically a document object model, basically the web page, the whole skeleton of web page, that is the DOM, and how you can manipulate that DOM using the JavaScript language. So let's see if more people have joined in. So only 3 people are here right now. I hope they will come soon, probably having dinner or whatever, but they will watch it in some time. Anyway, hello the people who are watching me right now. So let's begin with the quick recap of CSS and what we built last time. So I'll just open what I built last time. Terminal, just go to my folder, and was episode 2, and I'll open it here, and I'll just drop the HTML right here. So basically in the last stream we created this Facebook sign up slash login page from scratch using HTML and CSS, and I have the videos in the channel, and obviously the code is again there in the DSC BVP repo. That is okay, I'm sorry, that's on GitHub, and the organization in DSC hyphen BVP. If you go here and scroll here, you can find live stream web, And on this particular repository, you'll find all the code that I'll be writing during the session, and also the changes that I'll be pushing. All right, so let's get started. First, we'll do the cheat sheet of CSS. So for the cheat sheet, I have a very interesting cheat sheet available, that is this one. So if you go on to Google and type CSS cheat sheet, it should be the first link that should appear, that is htmlcheatsheet.com/css. And if you go over here, you can find that this is a very cool, not so great looking, but a very cool website that lets you interact with the CSS properties in real time. So I would like to tell you that whatever they are doing here is actually running using JavaScript. Basically, JavaScript is used to dynamically change the CSS values on this web page. Yes, that is possible, and I'll be showing you too how to do that, and using those JavaScript properties, you can change the CSS on particular web page. So let's start over here. So this is the basic syntax, that is the selector. You write the class name, and you open a curly bracket, you type a property and its value. So that's how it works. And to include the external CSS file in your project, you just use this link tag with a rel of style sheet, type text/css, and href is basically the path to that CSS. Internal styles, I don't recommend you doing that, but if you want to do that on your HTML, just create a style tag, and inside that style tag, just type in the class, and whatever you do here, just type that inside the style tag. So let's just see if everything is working correctly. Yeah, cool. So here I talked about the margin and padding. So basically this white part is the content, this is the padding, which is basically how inside the content will be from the border. This is the border, and outside the border is the margin. You can change this margin, you can change the border, and you can change the padding as well. And this is the box model, it's called a box model, and it basically states how your content will look inside a div. So that is the thing. And then this is the background property for this is the property for background. Basically you type background, you just give a color, or you can give a URL, basically the image. No repeat, basically what happens is if you have a small image and you don't give the no repeat property, it will just tile the images next to each other to basically fill the whole page. So no repeat basically helps to stop that. It will just create one instance of the image, and it will just if you have fill, if it will stretch it out, otherwise it will just show the small image on the top. Okay. This is the gradient property. I use the gradient property while making this particular sheet from this gray to this white color. So this is how it works. It's basically this particular code here. That is the linear gradient. If you are using WebKit, you can use this. If you are using Mozilla, you can use this. So basically it works differently on different browsers. So basically it has different kind of tags for each of them. Okay. So this is the box shadow. You can see, okay, I'll just show you how it works. So you can move the shadow from here, and you can see the property will change simultaneously, and down and up, and spread, blur, and opacity. So basically this is how it works. So if you're working with borders and everything, you can use this box shadows and everything, you can use this particular property. It's very nice. If you do inset and see how the code changed, it will give a box shadow inside the box. Alright, same with the text shadow. The text shadow property works like this. You can choose some default styles here, and it will pop up a window, and these are the properties. About the font, you can select the font from here and change the size, letter spacing, how spread out or how close the letter should be, word spacing, how spread out the word should be, the color, the weight, bold and normal, decoration, underline, style, variant should be small caps or normal, case, uppercase, lowercase, and simultaneously the code also changes. So as you can see, there's a font family which basically states this thing, font size, letter spacing, word spacing, color, Font weight is basically how bold or thin the text is. Text decoration is basically none, underline, overline, or through the text. Font style, normal, unset, italics, oblique, variant, font variant, and font transform, upper, lower, or capital. So basically this is a very cool website. You can come and play around with various CSS properties, and you can get the code and see what properties are being changed simultaneously, dynamically. So this is the border. If I want a border and an outline, I can decrease the width, and it will change here. Solid, dotted, dashed, double, groove, ridge, inset, outset, hidden, none, color, position top, position right, position bottom, whatever. Alright, media queries is basically if you want to make your site responsive. We'll talk about media queries when we'll be doing Bootstrap, and right now you can try it out, but I'll not be discussing it here. So basically these are some of the properties, and you can also find several other text cheat sheets for it. Just simply Google CSS cheat sheet and you'll get various links. The first one is the interactive one, and this is, I think, one of the best cheat sheets that are available out there. So okay, happy Holi. Holi is still far, but let's have it in advance. I think I'll do a special video on Holi, basically lots of colors and everything on the page. Let's see if it happens. And okay, let's move forward. So basically this was CSS, and if you have any queries, put it down in the comment section, and I'll be very happy to answer you. And also before we move forward, there was one request from someone in the login in the feedback form that it will be better if I can give you guys some assignment and you can finish that assignment and submit it somehow. So I think that is a very good suggestion. So for this particular session, I would like to give you a challenge of basically recreating this page. Or if you don't want to recreate this page, I'll find another login page. Let's find out if we have some good Twitter login page. Okay. This is not like that, which I expected. Let's see if it is better. Yeah. So basically, I want you to create this particular Twitter page for today's assignment, and it will be a good, and this is very easy. Actually, this is easier than this Facebook page because it does not have images or gradients and anything else. So basically I give you an assignment, or basically challenge you an assignment to challenge you to make this Twitter login page for today's assignment. All right. Okay, Alpha Gamer, shout out please. So shout out to Alpha Gamer. He basically wants to have shout out from a long time. And Anonymox Gaming, basically shout out to both of you. What's your real name, guys? And are you a student of BVP? Anyway, so let's get going. This was the CSS. This is your assignment. All the best for your assignment. And let's move forward to JavaScript. So do you have any queries? Please put down in the comments. Alright. Also, I hope the live stream will be a little smoother and without any lag today, because I have reduced the bitrate even less, and let's see how it goes. Anyway, so about JavaScript, let's Google what JavaScript is. I know what JavaScript is. I just want to show you this particular web page. So basically you can read about JavaScript here also. You can find many tools and resources, and you can join the JavaScript community over here. You can join the IRC, which is basically the internet relay chat. You can talk about JavaScript and features of JavaScript, and you can discuss here. SpiderMonkey is actually the JavaScript engine for Mozilla. I'll talk about that later, and that's basically it. So basically JavaScript, you can read about JavaScript over here. So what JavaScript actually is, let's switch to this view. if it's happening. Did it happen? Yeah. So basically what JavaScript is basically the language of the web. So of any website, there are actually three components of a website. That is the DOM, or the document object model. Document object model is basically the HTML or XML or whatever ML that whatever markup language that you're writing, that basically constitutes the DOM. And the other thing is the CSS. CSS is basically the styles, how your document is going to look like. And JavaScript is basically the functionality of how your browser will perform. Let's switch back to here, and I think I can find a good enough meme for this. I saw a very nice meme for this. CSS, JS, HTML meme. Did it change the view? Yeah. So basically this is one of the memes that I saw. So this is just the HTML part, and this is the HTML plus CSS part, and basically JavaScript is how the acting skills of Deepika is. So you can have a very poor analogy of this case. This is the DOM, this is the HTML plus CSS, that is the DOM, and the JavaScript is basically her acting skills. So that's what JavaScript is. It acts to the functionality of any web page. So let's see the comments. Okay, we have a question here that says basically, does HTML code differ for different browsers like Chrome or Edge? So no, basically HTML is a standard protocol that was created. It's a markup language. It runs on the HTTP protocol, that is the hypertext transfer protocol. You will be learning about this in your college also in web engineering. So all the browsers support that protocol, and all the HTML code that is written anywhere will run the exact same way on all the browsers, be it Edge, be it Safari, be it Chrome. HTML is HTML for all of them. Okay. So JS की native implementation कैसे होती है, JavaScript की implementation we'll be talking about. And please don't spam the comment box, I really don't like it. Okay, another question is, Node.js is better or Angular? So basically Node.js is a separately different entity than AngularJS. Angular is basically a framework for building front-end applications, front-end applications and front-end stuff, and Node.js is basically a tool to create backend. So you can't really compare Node.js and Angular. And if you want to compare, you can compare Angular with React, Angular with Vue, React with Vue. Vue is basically Vue. Vue, React, and Angular are basically front-end frameworks. At backend, you have PHP, you have Node.js, you have Django, you have Flask. These all things constitute the backend. So that's about it. And JavaScript is a lightweight interpreted JIT compiled programming language with first-class function. Anyway, before getting into that, I want to tell you there is something called a scripting language, and there is something called programming language. So the difference between the two is that programming language is a superset of scripting language. So all the scripting languages are programming languages because you can write programs in it, and scripting languages are called so because they don't compile into native code, but they compile just in the runtime of the browser. How to put it in the most simplified way is that scripting language basically runs on your browser and it does not compile. That's all that you need to understand. Scripting languages are interpreted just like Python. So Python can be a scripting language. I don't know, but JavaScript is a scripting language. Yes. Also, one thing that most of you guys confuse about is the similarity between JavaScript and Java. So the only similarity between Java and JavaScript is the same as the similarity between car and carpet. So JavaScript just shares the name Java, and this was because when JavaScript was invented, at that time Java was a very popular language, and the developers wanted to basically grasp on the market of whatever Java was doing and created JavaScript. It was basically created by Netscape. Netscape was a very popular browser during that time. Now nobody even knows Netscape anymore, and uh, that's about it. And that's about it. That's JavaScript. And if you want to read the history of JavaScript, you can come onto this particular website that is open here. And it is a standard for JavaScript is a the standard for JavaScript is Acma Script. Now we'll talk about Acma Script. Before that, we'll take some questions. Okay. What is the difference between JavaScript and nodeJS? So the difference between JavaScript and nodeJS is that JavaScript is a language and nodeJS is a tool that runs or compiles JavaScript. So basically you have C, C++ and GCC. So what GCC does, it takes the C++ or C code and compiles it into an executable code. That's the same thing with Node. Node basically takes JavaScript, compiles it, and runs it on your machine. Okay, do you know about Napster? Yes, I know about Napster, and I don't think that it is very relevant to talk about right now. Might as well make another video on that. Alright, let's move forward, and I'll just open my code editor for once. So I'll go into my directory. I'll make a new directory, episode 3, and I cd into episode 3, and I'll open my term coding window here. Okay, so what is UI design? UI design is basically the user interface, however the website looks like, however the user how the user interacts with your website, that comes into UI design. Okay. Another question is, we have HTML CSS for HTML CSS Bootstrap for front end. Then what is UI designing? Okay, this is a very serious topic. The difference between front end and UI design. So some people confuse that front end is all about the design aspect, whereas that is not the case. Front end is basically a superset of UI again. So to put it in a very simpler manner, we can say that front end also handles how the data is represented, basically the document object model, and the UI is basically how nice the data looks. Like if I can have a lot of code, simply the text written on the web page, but if I format that particular text in a good and visually beautiful manner, that basically constitutes the UI part of the web page. Front end also handles the request from the server, how the request data is being requested from the server, and how it will be displayed, in what encoding will it be displayed, and at what time it will be displayed. Basically, if you go onto Facebook, you want to visit the profile page, you click on the profile button, you are taken to a different URL. So basically that is also a part of front end sometimes, but how the page looks is the UI part. Okay. Please, UI versus UX as well. So UI is basically the user interface and UX is basically the user experience. UI and UX, the major difference between UI and UX is UI is just the visual part, only the visual part, how the thing looks, and UX is the experience, that is how the user interacts with your application. That is through if you want to have mouse clicks, if you want to have touch events, you want to how the user experience will happen. If it is if the user wants to go from home to the profile page, what steps will the user take? If you are home page and you are displaying a home button and a profile button, that comes in the user experience part because you have a profile button. Also, if you have suppose you don't have a profile button right there, you want to have another menu, the user clicks on the menu and then the profile button is available. That's a different kinds of user experience. But how the button will look like and how the menu will be presented, that is the UI part. So obviously as a user, if I have a home page and I have lots of things that are going on in the front page, I would not like that. But if I have a separate menu and inside that menu are all the links, that is something that I'll prefer, and that will change how the experience, how my experience will be with the application, and how often will I come back to use your application. Oh, why it is black? Okay, something wrong with VS Code. I'll launch it directly from here. Okay, it's still not working. Something wrong with VS Code. Like it. Yeah, and it opened properly now. Okay. Okay, do we have any more questions? सेमेस्टर का रिजल्ट आने वाला होगा यार. एग्जाम्स लेट हुए थे, एग्जाम्स जल्दी होते हैं. आई डोंट इवन रिमेंबर द लास्ट एग्जाम्स. इट विल बी कमिंग सून. डोंट वरी अबाउट द रिजल्ट. Okay, so let's get into JavaScript. We have been wasting a lot of time, not wasting actually, we have been discussing a lot of time on the theoretical part. Let's deep dive into JavaScript. Before that, I think I missed something. I'll just create a new file. I'll be having .md. Okay, I'll just copy some stuff from the Facebook page. Okay, I don't have Facebook on this browser. Yeah, let's copy this. So we talked about CSS, this is done. We talked about introduction to JavaScript, that is done. We talk about what is the scripting language, and now we have to discuss some jargons. That is ES5, ES6, JavaScript, jQuery. What the hell are these words? So basically when JavaScript started, it was started by Netscape, and after that the people at Netscape shut down and whatever happened. So basically all the people who developed JavaScript came together, and some other people also, the developer community, basically created a new standard and called it Acma Script. That is ECMA Script. You must have heard about Acma Script once. You maybe have heard about Acma Script, but what Acma Script to JavaScript is basically what Devanagari is to Hindi, or what Roman is to English. So basically Acma Script is a standard of writing JavaScript. So JavaScript can be written in various formats. There are some encodings and some differences of JavaScript, and that particular depends on what version of Acma Script that you are using. So Acma Script 5 is the first iteration of Acma Script, and it is something that is supported by most browsers, kind of like all of the browsers. And Acma Script 6 is basically one of the newer releases of Acma Script, and it is sometimes the Acma Script 6 code is not sometimes understood by the browser, so it needs to be translated into Acma Script 5, and then it has to be then it is understood by the browser. So for that translation part, there is something called as Babel. Babel is basically nothing but translate. It takes the modern JavaScript, and modern JavaScript contains the JavaScript X, that is JSX code that we write in React, or the JavaScript newer functionalities of JavaScript, takes everything from the modern JavaScript, translates it. Basically the newer version is the ES6 version. Babel takes the ES6 version, translates it into the ES5 version, gives it to the browser, and the browser displays it. So Babel is basically nothing but a translation tool. jQuery, you must have heard about jQuery. So jQuery is something that is built on top of JavaScript. So basically jQuery, you can understand jQuery in a very simple manner, that jQuery is basically a wrapper. It wraps many of the JavaScript functionalities into easy to understand and easy to write code. So basically, if you need to have if you need to select an element on the page in vanilla JavaScript, also there is something called as vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla. So basically, the vanilla is basically the raw version of JavaScript, and jQuery is the modified version of JavaScript, so vanilla JavaScript. So if you have to select an element on the web page, and for that you need to write a code something like document dot get element by ID. You have to put a bracket, and inside the bracket you have to give the selector. In vanilla script you have to do it that way, and inside jQuery you just simply have to write a dollar, and that's it. So I'll just give a demonstration. If you need to select something in vanilla JavaScript versus jQuery, so you'll write something like document dot get element by ID, and you'll just write the tag name over here, whereas in jQuery you'll simply do this. So that's how jQuery makes our life easier. It was very popular before the front-end frameworks came out, that were React and Angular and Vue. And now jQuery is relatively less used than these frameworks, because obviously the front-end frameworks has better features. Moving on about TypeScript. So for TypeScript, I want to show you a diagram. Yeah. So basically this is a diagram that you need to look at. So here is the yellow portion is the JavaScript, and JavaScript is a very small part, a very low type of language. JavaScript is basically a subset of ES6, that is the Acma script, and Acma script as well in turn is the subset of something larger, that is TypeScript. So TypeScript is a strongly typed language. It has generic, it has interfaces. It is typed in a strictly it is a strictly typed language. You need to define everything. You need to have everything declared very well, and it's used basically in Angular. Not Also there are two versions of Angular, that is Angular and AngularJS. AngularJS uses JavaScript, whereas Angular uses TypeScript. We'll be talking about that in front end, and that's about it. That's about TypeScript. So whatever happens is that even if you write TypeScript, the browser won't be able to understand it. It needs to be compiled into something. So TypeScript compiles into JavaScript, and then the browser understands JavaScript and runs it. So that's about it. That's about the jargons that we needed to discuss. And let's move forward to writing our first JavaScript code. So before that, let's take if we have any questions. Python, we won't be taking any doubts of Python in this series. Please ping me later for this. We use HTML, CSS, JS, jQuery for front end. Then what's the use of front end frameworks, and which is the best front end framework to go with for front end? So I think I answered this question when I described about jQuery. So basically the front end frameworks are front-end frameworks make your job easier. Okay, so basically you write everything in HTML, then you give on the explanation, not the explanation, you basically give the functionality of whatever function that you have written and everything else. So basically that's a little tedious, and what front-end framework gives you is that they have something that are already taken care of in the backend. Basically the routing and deployment and everything, they are taken care by the front-end frameworks altogether. You don't need to write everything from scratch. So front-end framework give you a little framework that you can build upon. So that is the main difference. You can as well, even now also many of the website and many of the developers use only vanilla JavaScript and CSS and HTML. But the world is changing. Also, if you want to have some if you want to build progressive web apps, and you need to have service workers and whatnot, so the code once you get into all the nasty stuff, the code gets very extended and lengthy and everything. So the front-end frameworks handle those very efficiently. And which is the best front-end framework to go with? So that is a very subjective question. There are multiple frameworks available. There is React, there is Vue, there is Angular, there is AngularJS. What I suggest is go out, check all of them out all together, and decide on your own that which framework that you want to stick to. I personally develop in React.js. Why? I have no particular answer for that. Basically, I started with React and just stuck onto it for some reasons. Yeah, that's about it. You can try, and also there is a very good support of React.js in the developer community, and also for Angular and AngularJS. Okay, that's up to you to decide. All the front-end frameworks are good. Every framework has a different kind of advantages, pros and cons. Some frameworks are frameworks, and some frameworks that we call frameworks are not frameworks but just libraries that gives you a predefined function. Like React.js is a library and Angular is a framework. So that's a difference. We'll be talking about that when we'll be starting with front-end frameworks. We'll talk about that in detail. Okay. So are you from BVP? Yes, I'm from BVP. Okay. Is PHP relevant to do in web development? So PHP is one of the older generation of languages that was designed for backend work. Now PHP has been taken over by nodeJS, Django, Flask, and uh, basically these are some language these are some tools that are being used for backend development. PHP is relatively old, but I won't say it is bad. It is very fast, and basically it was designed for web initially. Python wasn't designed for web, so it's not as good as PHP, but I think it is easier to write than PHP because it's Python, so that's the case. Anyway. Okay, so let's start writing JavaScript. So first of all, I create a new file. I'll call it index.html, obviously. And inside index.html, I'll write a boilerplate for HTML. And the title, I'll write starting with HTML. Inside the body, I'll have a division. I'll give it a class of main body. Don't expect any beautiful stuff today because I'll be focusing on JavaScript for now. Okay, inside the main body, I'll create two divs. One I'll call menu bar, and another I'll call main body. तो हो चुका है. Okay, I'll call it content, and I'll have yet another one, and I'll call it footer. So inside the menu bar, I'll have an h1, and I'll say learning JavaScript. I'll have another h4 tag. I'll say it is the language of the web. So now in the content folder, division, I'll have another h2 say, and I'll call it list of languages, and I'll create an unordered. I'll make an ordered list, and inside the order list I'll have a list item. I'll say Python, and I'll say Java. I'll say Dart, C++, and just to have a 5, I'll say give me another language. I don't know. I'll say Swift. Anyway. Okay, I literally forgot JavaScript. And in the footer, I'll create two divisions. One division I'll call sign, say DSC BVP, and I'll put this in paragraph, and I'll say DSC BVP. And in this one, I'll say, what do I say? I'll say anything random class. I'll say DSC BVP. Anyway, so this is a basic web page that I have created. It should look shitty AF. How do I access it? Yeah, I'm lazy, so I'll just do this. So basically this is what my web page looks like right now, and Okay, so this is what the web page looks like right now, and let's begin with JavaScript. So to begin writing JavaScript, there is something called as console. So if you want to open the console, it opens like this. So basically it's Command Option I in Macintosh, it's F12 in, I guess, Ubuntu and Windows. So if you open that, you'll be presented with something called as console, and here you can write JavaScript. So right now the whole web page that I have created is not much of an use, so I'll just shrink it, or I won't shrink it. It looks good like this. Anyway, so okay, so here we can write JavaScript, and as I told, JavaScript is a scripting language and it is not compiled, it is interpreted. So we can write JavaScript line by line. So if I say 10 plus 2, it will return me 12 because JavaScript knows computation. If I do 10 divided by 2, it should return 5. If I do 10 divided by 3, it should return 3.3, and if I do 10 double divided by 3, it should return 10 only because that is something else. This is actually a comment. Anyway, so 10 percentage 3 is the remainder and stuff. So basically simple mathematics. And if you want to have variables, is it visible to you guys? Let's increase the font size. So to define variables in JavaScript, you have two things, that is var for variable or let for variable. So basically let is actually the ES6 version and var is the ES5 version. Chrome supports both of them, so you don't need to worry. Basically I'll use var this time. Var a equals 10, var b equals 5, var c equals a plus b, and if I say suppose print the value of c, I'll just write c and it will give me the value of c. So basically that's how easy JavaScript is. I guess most of the language does that. So if you have any experience of Python before, you might find it very familiar because JavaScript is very similar to Python in most of the cases. Only a few syntax that it shares from Java, otherwise it's more or less the same. You don't even need to have a colon to end the line. So that's about the basic stuff. So let's see if we have any questions. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment box. Okay, so we don't have any questions right now. Okay, so basically that was about it, and that's one way of writing JavaScript, that is in your console. Another way of writing JavaScript is, I want to close the console right here. So another way of writing JavaScript is inside the HTML itself. So inside the body tag, I'll just create a new tag and I'll create script. So whatever you write inside the script tag is treated by the by the browser as JavaScript. So if I need to write the same thing, var a equals 10, var b equals 5, var c equals a plus b, and one thing that is different here now is that to print something, you don't have this print command, rather you have something called console. Console is basically the same thing that I opened there, and you have inside the console you have a function called log. So console.log is basically the print function for JavaScript. If you are writing code in browser, if you are running it on terminal, I'll be showing you how to run it on terminal. So basically to do that, you need to have something called as console log. So if I do console log C and I refresh the page, you can see the answer comes out to be 15. It's basically the value of C variable. So that's the variable thing. I'll show you a loop. So for loop, for var I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus equals 1, and console dot log I. So it should print all the values from 0 to 10, and I refresh it. So as you can see here, 15 is the answer of C, and then I have 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that's how JavaScript is. So basically it's the same thing. If you know any language, you can write JavaScript. It's basically some of the syntax that is different, and that's about it. And just tell me, I'll write a demo code for you. Okay, let's write Fibonacci series in JavaScript just for the sake of it. Fibonacci series. So I think for Fibonacci series I need 3 variables. The first one should be an A, B, and let's call it 0. Okay. So what happened? What is a Fibonacci series? So why do I need to write? It will be complicated right now. I want to write a easier code. Okay, let's work with arrays. Yeah, why are we waiting for arrays? So basically that was the variables I'm printing. Then the for loop. Let's get directly into arrays. So if you have written Python, this is how you define array. Var arr is equals to an array, and this is how you define an array inside JavaScript. You can also have elements inside it, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and to print this array, console.log arr, and just simply refresh the page, and you can see we have an array. So basically that's how it the browser shows it. And to iterate the array, you can also do the for loop, for var I equals 0, I less than, to get the length of this array, I'll just simply write arr.length and I plus plus or I plus equals 1, whatever works, console.log array ka ith element, and here we have it. So you can have arrays like this. You can even have strings inside it as A, B, C. So you'll have a strings here, and there is no character inside it. It's basically strings. And also you can have mixed arrays, I suppose. Yeah. So first 3 elements of the array are strings, and the other 3 are integers. So even that is supported inside JavaScript. And another thing, basic operations are done. I'll show you if statements. So yes, there is one important thing that is here, that is if. Let's write it first. Array ka ith element triple equals. Now this is something you haven't seen before. Maybe if you haven't done JavaScript, it is basically triple equals. Instead of writing 2 equal to sign, we write a third equal to sign, because sometimes JavaScript does funny things. So it is important to check what 2 equal to does. It basically checks the value only if the value is the same, and what 3 equal to does is that it checks the type also. So if it's a string and the other one is also a string and they both have the same value, it will return true only then. Now you may find it very funny, why do we need to have a check on the type as well? If the values are same, they obviously need to be the same thing, but that's not the case with JavaScript. You must have seen some memes also regarding that, but I'll just show you. So if array of I equals to A, print console.log and say this is A, else console.log not A. So basically this is the thing, the triple equals operator, and I'll just see. So this is an A and it printed not A 5 times. So this is a Chrome feature. If the console has the same line repeated, it will simply write a number, append a number next to it instead of printing it again and again. So I'll show you why triple equals is used. So if I have a 0 and I triple equal it to 0, so it gives false, but if I do this, it gives true. Funny, right? Just take a moment to realize what I just did. This is a very funny thing inside JavaScript, and if you want, you can find even more things. So if I do a 0 and I triple equal it to an empty array, it should return false, but if I do 0 and I double equal to an empty array, it gives true. So this is something that you need to keep in mind for JavaScript, because basically the scene is 0 is actually a null value for JavaScript. Let's check this again. If 0 triple equals null, false, but if 0 double equals null, even that is false. So for some reason this JavaScript treats it differently. So if you Google funny JavaScript, you should be able to find it. Yeah. So there's a repository on GitHub which is called what the fuck JS, WTF.js, and you can find n number of things that are funny over here. So yeah, so even this, it works like that. So just check this out, check this repository, WTF.js, and you'll find the funny things inside JavaScript. All right. So basically this is one way of writing JavaScript. That is, I have showed you two ways of writing JavaScript. One way was writing JavaScript directly here on the console. Another one is writing all the JavaScript inside the script tag. Now I'll show you a third way of writing JavaScript in which you won't be needing an HTML file at all. So before that, let's see if we have any questions. All right, we don't have any new questions, so let's move on to that. So if you need to write, so what we do here is like, suppose I'll just cd onto desktop and I'll create a new file, something .py, and if I suppose I edit this file nano something .py and print this is a Python code, and I'll just save it and exit it, and if I write Python something.py, it should basically run Python over here. So that's how we are used to doing stuff. We don't need to run, we haven't ever run code inside a browser or on the web page like so. So for that, what to do is that we have a tool called as we have a tool called nodeJS. So I suggest you to download this tool, that is nodeJS, and I suggest you to download one more thing, that is npm, that is the node package manager. So basically what nodeJS does is that, and before we talk about nodeJS, I'll take you back to something that we discussed, that is the JavaScript engine. So our browsers had three parts, right? One was the DOM, the other one was CSS, and the third part was the JavaScript one. And what every browser has to run JavaScript is a JavaScript engine. So what JavaScript engine does, it extracts the JavaScript from the code, runs it inside a runtime, and then whatever the compiled version is, or whatever the interpreted version, whatever the runtime version of that code is, it sends back to the browser, and to that it needs an engine. So let's talk about some notable engines. So basically Google Chrome has an engine called Chrome V8, Mozilla has an engine SpiderMonkey, Safari has an engine JavaScript Core, and Microsoft Edge has an engine that is Chakra. So what these engines does is what I had discussed right now. It takes the JavaScript code and compiles it and makes an executable out of it. So what Node.js is now? So what Node.js is, it's nothing but it's built on top of the Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So whatever that's happening inside Chrome, Node.js can do it. So what it enables Node.js to do is that it can run JavaScript on your computer without the need of a browser. So once you install that, right now we have been writing code like this. So once you install that, we'll do this. To check if you have Node installed, I'll simply do node v, and I have a Node, if it's visible. So I have a Node version of 10.13 installed, and if I do npm v, I have a npm version of 6.7 already installed. So let's do this. I'll cd back into whatever directory I was working on, cd live stream, and cd into episode 3. I'll say, and I'll create a new file called test.js. So basically JS is the extension for JavaScript. And to run JavaScript, as you can see, I have a JavaScript file over here, and I can simply write JavaScript code here right now. So var a equals 10, var b equals 15, var c equals 10 plus 15, and to print that I still need to do console.log because it's still a console, and console.log c. And if I come back here again and I simply do node and I simply do test.js, you can see that node runs the JavaScript code inside your terminal. So that is the third way of running JavaScript inside. So what node helps you to do is that it enables you to run a JavaScript backend server altogether on your machine, and this thing is writing JavaScript on the front end part. This is writing the JavaScript on the backend part. That is the main difference. So now we have three ways of writing JavaScript. So that's up to you to choose now, and that's about it. So writing our first JS code, check. Writing ways of writing JS code, check. Intro to nodeJS, not for backend yet because we are not starting with backend development right now. We'll do that later. And npm check. So basically that's the introduction of JavaScript, and that's about it. That's about JavaScript. If you know any coding language, it will be very easy to write JavaScript. With some syntactical differences, rest JavaScript is very simple. So I suggest you to try out some things. Let's why not do it? Let's print stars. Like we have a pattern, star pattern, the basic thing that we do in code. So let's run that. So for I don't even remember the code for it. So for, I guess it's a double loop. For var I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus equals 1, and for var j equals 0, j less than I, j plus equals 1. Also you can write j++, but I prefer j plus equals 1 because I have a habit of writing Python and j++ doesn't work in Python, so I have this habit. And console.log star. Alright, so I think it should create a pyramid pattern. Okay, it didn't. Okay, I need to have a next line also. Console.log. I'll just simply print a new line over here. Okay, for some reasons it's not working. It is working, but it's not printing it next side by side. So, and there's not an end tag. Okay, let's find out. Let's Google stuff we don't know. So JavaScript printing stuff in same line. Usually JavaScript is not used for this purpose, so okay, it's not possible directly. It's not possible directly for some reason. Yeah, so as I told, JavaScript is not used for this thing, so I don't think if it will be even okay. Okay. Okay, it simply won't, because JavaScript is not built for this purpose. So what I was trying to print was this particular pattern. So this pattern, so you can try if you want. There are ways to do it. You can use string concatenation and whatnot. So basically I won't be jumping into that right now. I'll just go on to the last topic that is remaining for today. That is the brief demo of DOM manipulation with Java. So what is DOM? DOM is document object model. What is manipulation? Manipulation is changing anything. What is DOM manipulation? That is manipulation of the document object model, and that we will be doing using JavaScript. Let's see how. So basically this is the use case of JavaScript, that is change things on the browser. So let's suppose we have to find the value of this particular thing. So can read it as very well, but I can read it, but not exactly what I want to do. So if I do document, so it selected the whole window dot get element by ID. So first we need to create an ID. So in the CSS lectures, I was talking about the differences between a class and an ID. So this is why an ID is actually used for, is to basically select whatever things that we want to select inside of JavaScript. So if I give it an ID of say same name, menu bar, and I'll just copy it, and I say document.getElement by ID menu bar, and I press enter. So nothing happens. I didn't refresh the page. Just copy it, refresh the page, and if I do this now, you can see that I am getting returned by this div, and this div contains the stuff that is learning JavaScript, and it is the language of the web. So many a times what happens is that you request some data from the backend and the data is huge, like huge. So what you do in that case is that you take the data, you use JavaScript, and you automatically create elements using those data instead of writing every element by hand. So for example, if I had an array of things and I wanted to make an array, so this is only 6 elements here. I don't know why 7 is coming. Mm, OL. Okay, let's leave it for now. So if I had millions of data points inside this list and I wanted to represent them all, I cannot do it by hand. I cannot type 1 million digits right away. So what for that purpose, I'll simply use JavaScript. So first of all, I'll give you a demo of changing stuff. So if I select this and get element by ID, I'll just say give it an ID of title learning JavaScript, and inside the get element by ID, and if I do title, I have to refresh, I always forget it. If I say title over here, so I get returned of this entire tag. I just need to have this particular data, that is learning JavaScript. So I'll say dot inner HTML, it's property, just a second. It's not a property. Why it's not a property? Some reasons it's not working. JavaScript inner HTML. It's supposed to work like this. Oh, it's capitals. It's inner HTML. Still not working for some reason. Oh, okay, it's not a function. HTML. Yeah. So if I do this, and you can see that whatever it was written over here, that is learning JavaScript, it's now returned here as learning JavaScript. And if I want to change it and say suppose do equal to like this, and I'll say learning web development, and I press enter now. So you can see the thing that was over here is being changed using what? I did not change it inside the code, but what actually happened was JavaScript actually changed it. So suppose you have, let's take an example of IPL, and you want to update a score on the website, and that score you cannot type everything manually. Like as soon as the batsman hits the ball, you cannot go on and update the score. It has to come from something from some server, and as soon as the data arrives, JavaScript takes care of it, and it automatically changes the thing that is present over there. So let's say instead of writing learning web development, I say learning coding. So it will change it to learning coding, and that's just one use case. So let's give another one. So I'll create a another division over here, and I give it an ID. So at the end, inside the footer, or yeah, inside the footer, I'll create another div, and I'll leave it empty for now, and I'll just give it an ID of empty. And over here, I'll type the script over here only, script. and I'll take it as like this. Okay, for this demo I'll type it over here only. So I'll refresh it. Right now nothing is present over here, so I say document dot get element by id. So this is just a demo. We'll be talking about DOM manipulation in the next tutorial in detail. And I'll select empty, and I'll get this empty div, and inside the inner HTML I'll set the value to empty string, or simply a string. So now we have a value. I can also change it to a paragraph. So let's paragraph inner empty string. Okay, I guess it's not supposed to work like this. There's another method of it. Let's test it out if it works. Otherwise, I'll show you directly that. Yeah. So now you can see this element is actually a paragraph, not a. I'll give a better example. I'll take it at h1. Now this is an h1 tag, and to prove it, I can go to elements. I'll expand this main body. I'll expand this footer, and I'll expand this empty, and you can see I have this h1 element that is a, but inside the code this h1 element is empty. So what is happening is that after the page is being rendered, this JavaScript is taking over. It's finding the ID of empty, and inside the empty it is actually appending another tag, and inside that tag it's appending another alphabet and displaying over here on the web page. So for that I'll just do this. Like if we have right here we have 6 elements. If we had more elements, what we can do is simply I'll type a script tag, and I'll have a var, or okay, so basically I'll have a var and I'll call it paragraph, and I'll call it document. Okay, no. Yeah, I'll say document dot create element, and the element will be of the type paragraph, and I'll create var text, and document dot create text node, and I'll say this is a paragraph. Next what I'll do is para dot append child text, and document dot get element by id, and I'll take the id of empty dot append child, and I'll append the para. Basically this is creating a tag paragraph. This is creating a text node of this is a paragraph. This is putting the text inside the paragraph tag, and then this document dot get element by id empty is putting it inside the browser. So here comes, this is a paragraph. And now for the fun part, I'll take this code. I'll write a for loop for var I equals 0, I less than 100, I plus equals 1, and I paste the code over here. So what it's supposed to happen now, and I guess I'll get an error. I got an error. Okay, I got some error. Okay, I broke it for some reason, I guess. So let's check for now. I'll just do just this, not this for now. Okay, what is happening? What is happening? What, right? Something is wrong. translated LTR why okay, I'll just remove everything for now. Let's push this. Okay, so I just have one division over here with an ID of empty, and basically as you can see here, this actually has one paragraph tag that is embedded inside it using JavaScript. And if I do this, basically I'm trying to create multiple tags inside it. And it's not letting me do it for some reason. What error do we have? Yes, there is a very basic error that I'm overlooking. Okay, what if I move it over to the top? Yeah. So basically I was putting the for loop on the wrong place. I need to create an element of paragraph again and again, and then I need to paste it inside put it inside the div. So as you can see here, this is just an empty div, but when it is rendering, it has rendered 10 instances of the paragraph. And to prove that it is actually rendering it inside the elements, you can see here, let's reduce the size of this. You can see there are actually 10 real paragraph tags inside here. So what is the use of it? I'll just show it now. And for every instance of print child para, if I needed to create a list, so what I could have done is that I could have done this. Para ke andar, I can have this as a paragraph. I'll just move this and put this. I will teach about this in the next session. And this is paragraph line, and I'll do this, and I'll put an I over here. So if I refresh it, so this is paragraph line 0, this is line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So this is how dynamically you can generate content inside your web page. So suppose if I had to have, suppose 1,000 lines of paragraph, I didn't need to write it again and again. I can simply type the type a variable that is 1,000, and it will actually generate 1,000 lines of code for me without even me writing a single line. I just created an empty div. So basically that is what's called as DOM manipulation, and we'll be talking about that in the next video. So if you have any questions, now is the time to put it inside the comments, and I'll just end the stream over here because I think I have taken way over than 1 hour. Okay, do we have any questions? Alright, so since we don't have any questions in the comments, if you have, you can ping me directly on my number. And so let's end this stream right now, and in the next stream I'll be taking a look in detail with document object model manipulation using JavaScript in a better way. This is a very chindi type of demo, you can say. In the next one I'll be taking a very good type of demo for this. So thank you everyone for watching. If you like this, please share it with your friends. I won't ask you to subscribe. If you feel helpful, if you feel that I helped you in a way, so just share it. That's all I want to ask you. Thank you. A good night. Bye bye.